Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all my Maneater Bug Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for post-Burst of Destiny. With all the support we have gotten in the Burst of Destiny booster set, Maneater Bug support was probably the last thing I'd expect us to see on, this booster pack. We haven't had a new form of Maneater Bug since the Soul of the Duelists booster pack, which was years ago. It was still in the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, and this one definitely does play into the playstyle of Maneater Bug, which the whole purpose of the deck is just when it's flipped up to destroy a card on the field, and that is what mimicking Maneater Bug does as well. Maybe we'll see some more support later on down the road in the form of like a spell support type of card, or even maybe a link monster that works with the overall playstyle of being able to flip Maneater Bug up and then destroy a bunch of other cards our opponent has. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the actual Maneater Bug monsters, we'll go ahead and start off with the newest one, and that is Mimicking Maneater Bug. With a flip effect, you target one monster on the field, destroy it, and if you do, this card gains attack equal to that monster's original attack. Then you can change this card's type to that monster's original type. It cannot be destroyed by battle, and it cannot be destroyed by the card effects of monsters with the same type. So with this, you're able to flip up the Mimicking Maneater Bug with no fear of it being destroyed, and then after that, you can change this card's type to that monster's original type. And also, depending if your opponent swings with a pretty strong monster, you can then change the Maneater Bug to attack position and swing over that said monster that your opponent tried to attack into the Mimicking Maneater Bug with, and be able to destroy it, having more attack with it since it gains attack equal to that monster's original attack. Having the 450 attack of Mimicking Maneater Bug to add onto it, it will always be able to swing over that. And then also being able to change the type of this card means that you can protect yourself if your opponent's running just one original type for the majority of the cards in their deck altogether. Still playing with the actual Maneater Bug playstyle, we are running 3 of the original Maneater Bug as well, with just the simple flip, target one card on the field and destroy it. So with it, you have just another card that can be flipped up and destroy an opponent's card. So every time you set a card in this deck, you're definitely making your opponent fear for attacking into your own cards. You're definitely going to be destroying a monster, but even if you aren't able to destroy, you can rely on the Mimicking Maneater Bug to at least take out that monster through an attack after gaining the attack of that monster. With the last of the Maneater Bug lineup that we run, we're running 3 Nobleman Eater Bug. This card is more of a powerhouse. It does require a tribute to set up on the field, but with it, when it's flipped, you can destroy 2 monsters on the field. So with it, you can take out a good number of different monsters our opponent has, and still it lacks a little more in the attack area. It's just a powered up version of Maneater Bug. I would say the best card in the deck is definitely the Mimicking Maneater Bug. If you didn't want to run as many copies of Nobleman Eater Bug, you can drop 1 copy of it for an additional copy of Ezectopede, the Worm Warrior. It cannot be normal summon or set. It cannot be special summon except by banishing 1 insect-type monster from your graveyard, and when it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. Setting up those insects in the graveyard will be very handy when we go over some of these spells, but it's in here as just another easy special summon target because Maneater Bug will definitely be one that you set up in your graveyard. Much easier than some of the other ones in the deck that can remain on the field for a good while. So with that, we're also running 3 of the final cards in the deck for the insect lineup. This is more of a control style deck focusing on just the flip effects of all the different Maneater Bugs, but 3 Gokapon, when it's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 insect type monster with 1500 or less attack from your deck to your hand. So aside from Ezectopede, you can search any of the Maneater Bugs since it is an insect monster with 1500 or less attack, and that counts all 3 of them. Being able to search out the newest one is more than likely your go-to card with Gokapon, but still a great card to rely on if your opponent does attempt to attack into this, not fearing being destroyed. You'll then see a Gokapon and have to worry more about what you added to your hand later on with this search. And that's it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. The spells definitely do help with a lot of setup, but some extra deck plays always do come in handy. That's why we're running 3 Worm Bait. If you control an insect monster, special summon 2 worm tokens to the field. You cannot normal or special summon any level 3 or 4 monsters the turn you activate this card. So it does restrict you from special summoning your level 3 or 4 monsters, but you can always still set those monsters on the field, which is your intentions with this card anyway, and the good majority of your Maneater Bug monsters. So getting the additional tokens, even if you have to summon out your Gokapon, giving you the 2 Worm Bait tokens, or just having one of the Maneater Bug monsters on the field already to give these 2 tokens, you can then at least set up another Maneater Bug set on the field to use against your opponent the following turn. And I also run 3 Verdant Sanctuary. This continuous spell, when a face-up insect monster is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, its controller can add 1 insect-type monster with the same level as the destroyed monster from their deck to their hand. So Ezectopede works very, very well with the Mimicking Maneater Bug being a level 4 monster, and Gokapon works well with Maneater Bug being a level 2. Having the search back and forth for all these options comes in handy with the face-up option. So remember that. I like to use the Gokapon play especially to then gain the additional search of Mimicking Maneater Bug off of the Gokapon, and then Maneater Bug off of the Verdant Sanctuary search. And I also run 2 Insect Neglect. This is more playing on the lines of the defensive style of the deck. When your opponent's monster declares an attack, you can banish 1 insect monster from your graveyard to negate the attack. So if you don't want your opponent to swing into the specific monster that may, end up either shuffling back the monster or some other way to get rid of it, then the Mimicking Maneater Bug can be protected by. You can use Insect Neglect to at least protect those insects using the other insects that we set up in the graveyard with plenty of our other cards like Ezectopede to use, or even some of the insect link monsters we may go to thanks to Wormbait. For more flip power with the flip effects of the Maneater Bugs being a big part of the deck, we're also running 3 Book of the Moon, just being able to flip those cards back face down again. And especially with Mimicking Maneater Bug, you can then just reset this card's type that it copies from the opponent's monster as well. If they go into a different type of monster and they plan to use that to at least get over the Mimicking Maneater Bug, being able to then swap and transform again into a new type will definitely set them off, but also giving you the chance with Book of Moon to stop any of their own extra deck plays they might try to go to. For more draw power in the deck, I also run 2 Pot of Desires. There's really not a card in the deck that if you banish like 2 copies of Nobleman Maneater Bug, as long as you have that one other copy, you can still make plays happen in the deck, and the same goes for all of them. You really only need the 1 Mimicking Maneater Bug to make use of the playstyle in the deck, so as long as you don't banish all 3 copies, you need that draw power in this deck, and that's where Desires comes in for that to rely on. And some more with, special summoning just really falling on to the Wormbait and Ezectopede. 3 Pot of Duality for search power to get the specific types of insects we need to our hand to use against our opponents. And that is it for the spells. Moving on now to the traps. Still playing with the defensive playstyle. 3 Storming Mirror Force. Just with the continuous spells we can set up in our back row. We're also relying on the trap lineup that we have against our opponent to either stop by shuffling back their extra deck monsters back into the extra deck using this card. And also 3 Summon Limit. You really only need the Wormbait token play and then an additional set to really set up against your opponent. But being able to stop their own summons and then just rely on the actual playstyle of swinging into them with Mimicking Maneater Bug can stop a lot of the playstyles of different decks. So that's why I like to run and main deck the 3 summon limits for your setup in this deck, with the last of the trap lineup just being 2 Solemn Strike and 3 Solemn Warning. The counter trap lineup can stop big monsters that may not be able to be taken down by your Maneater Bug lineup. You can reserve this card for specific monsters you can take out, and then for the rest of them rely on the Solemn Brigade just to stop them before they even hit the field. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. I run 1 Insector Picklefelina. You need 2 insect-type monsters to summon this card, and it also gives you the option to discard a card to target 1 other insect you control, and equip 1 insect from your deck to it as an equip spell, and it gains the effect. This card gains 500 attack and defense, and you can target 3 in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and then draw 1 card. So it's also why I'm not running Avarice. I like to rely on Picklefelina with the Wormbait tokens to summon this card out, and then just use that to shuffle our insect-type monsters back into the deck for us to reuse. I'm also running 2 of the Shinobi Insect Hagakurimo for a more special summon recycle power from the insect monsters from our hand or graveyard, and then we can also use them for some Xyz plays to prevent them from being banished thanks to this card. For more of the generic link monsters, I also run 1 Underclock Taker, 1 Mrs. Radiant, since they are the majority of this deck being Earth attribute monsters, 1 Barricade Board Blocker for recycling the continuous spells, 1 Repodocus for the change in type to Mimicking Maneater Bug, 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Nightmare Phoenix for the Link ones, 1 Salmon-Great Almirage, and 1 Clara and Rushka for the low attack monsters that we run in this deck, or even just the fact that we normal summon or set those monsters can be used for those plays. And for the Link 3 monsters, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Triple Burst Dragon, and 1 Decode Talker. We don't go into them as often, so that's why I'm also not including any Link 4s. I'd say it's just as difficult to go into those for this deck. And lastly, the 1 Herald of Pure Light. If we summon out our insect-type monsters using our Shinobi Insect, Hagekurimo, instead of them being banished, when we summon the Maneater Bug original one to the field, we can at least overlay with it and Gokapon into Herald of Pure Light to recycle more cards back into our extra deck for us to use, and also the main deck. As for the go-to plays in the deck, it really is a control playstyle that you'll fall on just what you have resource-wise to use against your opponent. The Mimicking Maneater Bug is a big help to that, but just being able to set up some back row to protect it, it all comes down to just what you open up your hand and what your opponent is playing for you to be able to stop with your deck. If you have the Mimicking Maneater Bug and the Wormbait, if you have it so your opponent flips this card up as a resolve and it can't be destroyed thanks to its own card effect, next turn you can activate Wormbait, giving you 2 tokens on the field, and then you can use those tokens to go into the Link summon of an Insect Link monster of choice. Since you're just limited from summoning level 3 or 4 monsters with those plays, you can still summon out other monsters, including the Maneater Bug and also the Gokapon, but you can use Piccofolina to equip one of your bigger noblemen to your Mimicking Maneater Bug, so not only will it gain your opponent's monster attack, but from its own and the 500 added onto it, it can hit at least over some of those bigger monsters as well. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. It's more of a fun deck, but I always like covering some of the smaller support that we get from the new Yu-Gi-Oh! Booster sets. And like I said, this one definitely took me by surprise, but always happy to update these decks with these new support cards we receive. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira, Twig out.